If the members and guests would please take their seats. Members, if you will, go ahead and take the time to sign in to your microphones. Good afternoon. Today is April the 9th, Wednesday, 2025. I hereby call State and Local Government Committee to order. Madam Clerk, you will open the board for roll call. Has everybody logged in that wants to log in? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 18 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do any of the members have any personal orders before we begin? Announcements? Seeing none, today we have to continue where we left off yesterday. We have 34 bills remaining, and I will be jumping around. I'll try to take the members first, and then we will start taking members of the committee's bills. So bear with us as we jump around. We also have one confirmation today. That'll be item 53. We will begin today's meeting by taking care of this. So everybody go to item 53. All right, this is House Joint Resolution 095. Got a proper motion and second. Chairman Eldridge, you are recognized on your House Joint Resolution.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a reappointment to the Tennessee Ethics Commission. With over 40 years' experience in the publishing industry, Lynn Richardson was originally appointed to the Ethics Commission by Governor Lee in 2021. She served as president and publisher of the Elizabethton Star, publisher of the Herald and Tribune in Jonesboro, and director and founder of the newspapers and education program for the Johnson City Press. Ms. Richardson has received many first-place awards from the Tennessee Press Association for excellence in the editorial news and feature writing and news photography categories, along with serving the organization as president, district director, and board member. She has a long history of giving back to her community, and she has served as a board member for the Elizabethton Carter County Boys and Girls Club and the Isaiah 117 House Board. She holds degrees in education and journalism from Concord University and East Tennessee State University. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Members, you've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions? Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to move on to House Joint Resolution 0195. All those in favor of it moving to calendar rules, please vote yes on the board or no on the board. Madam Clerk, you will open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 0 nay.
Chairman Eldridge, your bill moves on to calendar and rules. 24. Okay, we're going to jump to item 24. We have House Bill 0845 by Representative Renaud. Do I have a motion? Motion. Proper motion in second. Representative Renaud, I do see that we have a untimely filed amendment. Will you please give us that drafting code?
7290.
Motion on the amendment. We have a proper motion on the amendment. Do we have a second? Second. This is an untimely filed amendment, so at this time, I will ask the committee if they want to accept the amendment or not accept the amendment. Proper motion and second. All those in favor of accepting the untimely filed amendment, say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Your bill, you're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Imagine being a citizen who goes to a public meeting in the middle of the day, but then finding out that despite the large number of people that show up to speak on a topic, only 2 or as few as 3 people are allowed to speak on the issue. This creates frustration and erodes trust between citizens and government. The amendment that I filed was to remove a specific section, the whereas clause, that brought consternation to many folks who represent counties and cities that do hear public comment. I just want to say that my county commission and city council, we do not have the issue that I'm bringing this bill forward on. Where we find the issue is in unelected appointed boards where they maybe don't feel the same way about having citizen engagement. HB 845 is absolutely a permissive bill that is aimed at strengthening public trust in our local governments. It does not mandate them to do my suggestions, but provides them with guidance on accommodating large groups of people who might want to come speak about an issue. I'm not asking them to let them speak. I'm just asking them to reconsider when these situations arise that they might allow for 1 or 2 or 3 or whoever number of people to be able to speak on the issue. The second suggestion that I have in the legislation is to allow a written public comment period, which may actually remove the concern that many governing bodies might have with the first suggestion to allow additional comment. A formal written public comment period will allow more opportunities for citizens to engage in on an issue that they have a concern about, where they might not be able to either show up at the meeting or because the meeting limits public comment, that they would still be able to express their concerns or opposition, whether it's for or against a bill, they would have an opportunity to present that in another format. So I believe these small changes can actually make a big difference in more voices being heard, but at the same time alleviate the concerns that governing bodies may have in addressing public comment. So with that, I will accept any questions.
Members, you've heard the explanation of the amendment and how it affects the bill. We've got a proper motion and second on the amendment. Without objection, we'll go ahead and place that amendment on the bill and recognize the sponsor afterwards for another statement if she has one. We are voting on placing Amendment 7290 on the House Bill 845. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. Representative Renaud, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this bill does not dictate how local governments must implement the suggestions. It simply offers guidance and more ways to hear voices that where they still retain the flexibility on how to do so in a way that best represents or serves their communities.
Members, you've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Do we have any questions for the sponsor? Chairman Rudd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the sponsor of the bill. You worked with the stakeholders, and I had a question, and you responded and amended the bill. You did take out the part that people were questioning whether people could just stand up and disrupt a meeting. You took that out. That was never your intent anyway. I want to thank you for taking that out of the bill to clarify that. And the rest of the bill, as far as I know, with all your suggestions on written comment, it's still permissive. While you're suggesting it, it is up to the commission or the governing body whether they adapt it. Is that correct?
Representative Renaud, you're recognized.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 845. Moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor vote yes on the board or no on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 7 ayes, 9 nays, and 3 present not voting.
Representative Renaud, Your bill fails.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Item number 8. This is House Bill 915 by Representative Sparks. Proper motion and second. Representative Sparks, I do see we have an amendment. Can you please give us your drafting code?
Yes, sir. Is it 1917? Is that what y'all have? 1917?
I'm sorry, sir. We have 5162.
Let me look. Yes, sir, that's proper.
Got a proper motion and second on the amendment. Would you like to explain the amendment or would you like us to place it on the bill for discussion?
Just go ahead and place on bill. Yes, sir.
Without objection, we're voting on Amendment 5162 going on to House Bill 915. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill, Representative Sparks.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. Members, what this bill 915 simply does is amend Tennessee's existing 6-week paid leave bill to add a family member that's caring for a qualifying dependent for reason for leave. This will allow state employees to take a paid leave to care for a parent, grandparent, child, or grandchild, spouse, or sibling with a serious illness or disability such as cancer or end of life such as hospice. Members, I was looking earlier, just pulled up the internet. The cost of care end of life is anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000. I think this would be a good benefit to help state employees who have been through this. I've been through this. I know Representative Rudd's been through this, caring for his mother. I cared for my mother and into her life. I want her to pass at home rather than being a nursing home. So I think it's a good piece of legislation. Ask for your support and approval.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Do I have any questions? Representative Martin.
Thank you, and thank you, sponsor. My question is about, you talk about qualifying illnesses. How would we verify this? I mean, we know when there's a birth of a child, like I've had my grandson today, got a name finally, John Kello Martin. And,
Thank you. Thank you all very
so-
much.
But when you have a name, I mean, there's a birth certificate, and when there's a death, there's an obituary, there's a funeral. These are things that are known, and there's no gray area
Yes, sir.
with regard to that. How do you do this 6 weeks? That how are things verified when you think about the issue of HIPAA and things like that? And is this something where you would have like 6 weeks for your mother this year, and then next year maybe you have 6 weeks for your father, and then maybe the next year 6 weeks for your mother if she has another illness? Could you
Yes,
address those
it's within
concerns?
the 6.
Representative Sparks, you're recognized.
It's within the 6 week that's already allotted now. I'd have to defer to legal. My understanding, it falls under the federal guidelines for Federal Medical Leave Act currently. Maybe legal could add some substance to it.
Your call.
All right. Without objection, we'll go out of session and we will hear from legal. Legal, you're recognized.
Thank you, Matt Mundy. In terms of your question about verification, I think either the appointing authority, who's the hiring authority for a particular agency, could prescribe some type of requirement for documentation of the illness. That'd be one mechanism. Department of Human Services probably has rulemaking authority to create some kind of global mechanism for documentation for something like this. That would be the two mechanisms I think would be the most likely. But the bill doesn't specify a manner in which it would be documented.
Representative Martin.
So that's not any conflict with HIPAA and those kinds of things?
Legal, you're recognized.
I did, Matt Mundy for the record, I don't think it would be no more or less than bringing a doctor's note to your employer to confirm that you are out sick.
Thank you.
Any other questions for legal? Representative Bricken.
No.
Okay. Representative Butler for legal?
No, sir.
Okay. Without objection, we'll go back in session. And I will recognize Representative Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just for clarity, this is paid leave, right, sponsor?
Yes, sir.
And what are the, the additional family members that this bill would include?
Representative Sparks.
Let me go back. No, grandparent. Biological, foster parent, step parent, and a legal guardian of an employee or an employee's spouse, employee spouse or domestic partner if they were a minor child as well.
Representative Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your bringing the bill to try to, expand the kind of the I'm going to say the benefits to our state employees, but this is pushing well outside anything in the commercial business world as far as paid leave. And it is, that's certainly been my position that our state employee benefits should try to stay in line with what is a common practice among the private sector. So I will not be supporting your bill, and for that reason, thank you, sir.
Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know, sponsor, we've talked about this bill.
Yes.
And there was legislation that has previously passed to give 6 weeks leave for foster care, those maternity leave, et cetera. So as a previous representative mentioned, there's no way to compete with this in the private sector. My question is this is not cumulative. They can't get 6 weeks for foster care, 6 weeks for a parent, 6 weeks for these are one of those three if this was to pass. That is correct.
Within the 6 weeks.
Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But they're not getting, you can't get 6 weeks three times for three different things.
Representative Sparks.
My understanding is just the 6 weeks. I'll refer to legal for clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe you're understanding my question. So we have 6 weeks for maternity leave,
Yes.
6 weeks for fostering a child, and now we're looking at adding 6 weeks for caring for an elderly parent. So if you do 6 weeks, that's 18 weeks.
No.
That's 4.5 months. So what I'm asking is, do you only get to use one of those 6 weeks out of 365
Yes.
days?
Representative Sparks.
Yeah, that's why I want to defer to legal for clarification.
Is there any objection for us going out of session and hearing from legal? Seeing none, out of section. Legal, you are recognized.
Matt Mundy for Legal Services. It's a maximum of 6 weeks paid leave for any of the qualifying
That's what I was
circumstances. And
That's what
if
I
you
was
use
asking.
part of it in towards the end of the year, it counts towards your 6 weeks for the next year. So you can't use, 3 weeks in December and then get 6 new weeks the following year, if that makes sense.
Does that answer your question, Representative Butler?
It's 6 weeks
almost
per
did.
12. It's 6 weeks per 12 months.
That's my question.
Yeah.
That's my question. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that's only going to give somebody 6 weeks. You choose one of these 3 items to qualify for. You don't get 18 weeks off is what I'm getting at.
Matt Mundy, that's correct. You couldn't use 6 weeks per year for a family member with a serious health condition, and then use 6 weeks for the birth or adoption of
That's
the
what I'm
child, if that's
asking.
what you're asking.
Thank you. That answers my question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Members, since we're already out of session, I'm going to take this time to recognize we do have a guest, Mrs. Freeland. Would you please come up to the table? Give us your name, who you're with, and you will have 3 minutes. You're recognized.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Also want to thank our House sponsor and our Senate sponsor, Senator Massey. My name is Feroza Freeland. I'm the policy director of the Southern Office at A Better Balance. We are a nonprofit that advocates for working women, families, and caregivers. We are partnering with over a dozen nonprofit organizations who are also supporting House Bill 915, including the Tennessee State Employees Association, AARP, American Cancer Society, American Heart Association, Coalition, the March of Dimes, the Tennessee Caregiver Coalition, and many other organizations. Also want to thank our many co-sponsors on this bill, some of whom are on this committee. This bill simply amends Tennessee's existing 6-week paid leave policy for state government employees to add caring for a family member with a serious health condition as an additional reason for leave. The definition of a serious health condition in the bill mirrors the definition in the federal FMLA, which has been in place for over 30 years. This bill does not increase the amount of paid leave beyond what is in current law. Subsection D clearly states that 6 weeks is the maximum amount of leave that an employee can take in a 12-month period, regardless of the reason for leave, as you all have discussed. As with the current paid leave policy, the Department of Human Resources has authority to set the policies and procedures to properly implement this policy and ensure oversight. And we have worked with the Department of Human Resources on this amendment language. Paid family leave is an important workforce recruitment and retention tool for the state. Imagine an employee who the state has invested in hiring and training and who has years of experience and institutional knowledge. If that employee's parent is going through cancer treatment, it would be beneficial to the state to allow them to take a few weeks of leave to attend to their family needs and then have them return to work rather than risk losing them altogether and having to hire and train a replacement. So again, thanks to the leadership of the General Assembly, the 6 weeks of paid leave is already available to state employees. This bill simply adds more flexibility to allow state employees to use the leave according to their family's needs, whether that is welcoming a new child or caring for a parent at the end of life, for example. So I urge you to vote yes on this bill. This supports state employees and their families during some of the most difficult and challenging times in their lives. And it will also help ensure that the state of Tennessee remains a competitive and cost-efficient employer. So I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions on the bill.
Thank you, Ms. Freeland. We appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions for our guest? Representative Salinas.
Thank you. Do policies like this, or do they have any like cost savings for employers?
Ms. Freeland?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So there is a lot of research to demonstrate that paid leave policies help improve workforce recruitment and retention. They improve productivity in the workplace. They improve employee loyalty, and they can help reduce on turnover costs. Again, you know, having, as you all know, having employees who are leaving and having a lot of turnover, having to continuously fill those positions and train new employees can be a great cost to employers. And so certainly this could have cost savings from that standpoint.
Representative Salinas for a follow-up.
That's it. Thank you.
Next on the list is Representative Warner. Do you have a question for the guest?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman. I have a question when we go back in session.
Representative Powell. All right. Has anybody got any questions for our guest? Representative Martin.
My question is for legal, Chairman, if that's okay.
Okay. We're out of session, so go ahead and ask it.
I just wanted the legal definition where it talks about, I understand the wife, et cetera, in this bill. What is the legal definition of domestic partner?
Legal, you're recognized. Give us just a second, Representative Martin. Let the record reflect Representative Dixie has now joined us in that good-looking suit.
Objection.
Legal, you're recognized.
Thank you, Matt Mundy, for the record. I would understand that term as plain meaning to be two persons who live together that aren't in a marital union.
Roommate.
Representative Martin?
So would that include roommates?
I mean, domestic
Legal.
partner.
Okay.
That would be, I think, consistent with the plain meaning, given the landscape of the case law with marriage.
Any other questions for legal or our guest? All right. Thank you, Ms. Freeland, for being with us today. We appreciate you taking time to come testify. Without objection, we'll go back in session, and I will recognize Representative Warner.
Mr. Chairman, if you could take Mr. Powell down here first, please.
Representative Powell, you're recognized.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, Representative Warner. I guess I just want to speak for, I'm a part of what many people are. You might be in the same boat as me, but we're considered the sandwich generation. And what that means is I have to take care of both two kids. In the case that I'm in, also have to help my mom, who's in assisted living, and also the power of attorney and primary caretaker for my aunt. So, you know, I'm very fortunate. I think most, if I could speak to the private sector, company I work for, they have a really good flexible policy where it's not, you basically get a certain amount of paid leave and you can use it on however you see fit to tend to whatever you need to. And a lot of companies in the HR world are really moving to that model. So I think to continue to address increasing numbers of people who are like me in the sandwich generation, having to take care of parents, also having to take care of children, this is a really important matter for them. And, you know, I want to make sure we keep and attract the best state employees because ultimately those are the people that run our state. So I just thank you for doing that. And I want to speak on behalf of all those in the sandwich generation of how important legislation like this is. So thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 915. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. All those in favor, please vote aye on the board. Those opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 ayes, 6 nays.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, committee.
60. We're going to jump over to
60.
item 60. Item 60. 6-0. This is House Bill 1434 by Representative Shaw. Proper motion and second. Representative Shaw, we do not have any amendments. You're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Just to be very clear, what this was a local bill and what the county commission with the 2/3 votes is asking for, and I think you might even have a letter in your office.
I do.
They're asking to base that budget on 92% of their tax collections rather than 85% that they've been using for years past. They just simply want to increase the amount, percentage of their budget that they can base their budget on. That's all. Doesn't raise taxes, anything. That's all it does.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Miller?
Question on the bill.
Question is being called on the bill. We're ready to vote on House Bill 1434. Moving on to calendar rules. All those in favor, please vote aye on the board or no on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 23 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
We're going to item 14. We will now start taking up some of the members on the committee bills. I don't see any other reps in the audience. So we will be looking at item 14, House Bill 160 by Representative McCallum. We got a motion. Is there a second? Properly second. Representative McCallum, you are recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, what this bill does is essentially remove the liquor by the drink tax for wineries, for tastings and retail sales at that winery. Currently, we do not charge that for distilleries or breweries. Really, we're saying this is good for the goose, it's good for the gander. We shouldn't be charging it on wineries either. It's just a fairness bill. So with that, I stand ready for any questions, sir.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Mitchell. Question's been called on the bill. We're ready to vote on House Bill 160. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. All those in favor, please vote aye on the board or no on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
It's marinated down.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 1 nay.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. Item number 15. House Bill 0142. We have a proper motion and second. I do not see amendments. Representative McCalman, you are recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members, this is a cleanup bill. We worked at the ABC to draft language for. Tennessee, we have a few premises that have a variety of products that they offer, such as facilities that offer both wine and distilled spirits. Current law requires separate spaces on the property for tastings of different kinds of products. For example, one room for wine tastings and one room for tasting spirits. This bill allows a single deeded property to have a joint tasting room rather than bifurcating the two tasting rooms to be separate. And with that, Mr. Chairman and members, I stand ready for any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Mitchell.
Question on the bill?
Question's been called on the bill. We have an objection. Is there 3 hands? He withdraws his objection. So we're now ready to vote on House Bill 142. Moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, please open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. That's the only thing that's missing. Item number 28. This is House Bill 1380. Is Representative Harris? I've just been informed the sponsor has asked that this bill be rolled to the first calendar of next year. Without objection, we'll roll it to the first calendar of next year. Item 29, House Bill 0857 by Representative Leatherwood. We got a proper motion and second. I do see we have an amendment. Please give us your drafting code.
5536.
That is correct. Got a proper motion and second on the amendment. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Yes, sir.
Without objection, we're voting on Amendment 5536 going on to House Bill 857. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
This bill requires the Office of Open Records Counsel to facilitate the convening of meetings of the Advisory Committee on Open Government.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 857. Moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. See, I was faking y'all out. See? Madam Clerk, open the board for voting.
It's beautiful.
Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 19 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. Item number 30, House Bill 405 by Representative Leatherwood. Do I have a motion? Proper motion and second. I do see we have an amendment. Please give us your drafting code.
4762.
That is correct. Do I have a motion? Proper motion and second. We're in proper form. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Yes, sir.
Without objection, we're voting on Amendment 4762 going on to House Bill 405. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill requires a hotel operator to remit the hotel occupancy tax to the municipality when a person has maintained occupancy for 30 continuous days and to cease collecting the tax from the person for the remainder of their stay in the hotel.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions? Representative Mitchell. Question is being called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 405. Moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Madam Clerk, has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 19 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 present not voting.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. Next on today's agenda is House Bill 393 by Representative Butler. Proper motion in second. I do see we have an amendment. Please give us your drafting code.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is 4879.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second on the amendment. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Please, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, we're voting on Amendment 4879 going on to House Bill 393. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Your bill is now amended. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This legislation simply allows retired canines from the Department of Corrections to be taken care of by their handlers, and the state of Tennessee pay $85 a month to the correctional officer to help take care of this animal. This actually resembles the legislation that was passed in 2017 that allowed retired canines from THP to be taken care of for the same $85. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor, Representative Warner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I made previous question.
I'm sorry, he was before you. We're voting on previous question. We are now voting on House Bill 393, going on to Finance, Ways and Means. All those in favor, please say aye. I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote?
Chisholm.
Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 22 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Item 32 on today's agenda, House Bill 783 by Representative Martin. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion?
Second.
Proper motion and second. I do see we have some amendments on this bill. Which drafting code would you like to run?
6379, Mr. Chairman.
6379 is correct. We got a proper motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly seconded. Representative Martin, you're recognized on, no, I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and place the amendment on the bill to be discussed. All those in favor of Amendment 6379 going on to House Bill 783, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. House Bill 783 as amended came to me from a worried mother in my district, a sober living home in her neighborhood, which is also located 2 houses away from Hickson Elementary. One morning, a Jeep was parked outside the sober living home, and when one of the residents left the home, the person in the Jeep drove by, shot and wounded the residents as the children were walking to school at that time. This mother has filed multiple complaints with local elected officials, including a residential harassment on her property. And since May of 2019, there have been 10 calls for emergency services relating to auto theft, overdose, and others at this residence. This particular home does not require a supervisor to be with the residents. It does not provide formal treatment services, and the neighbors are left with zero accountability. House Bill 783, as amended, would offer certain local government tools to ensure safety and accountability of these sober living homes for both residents and their neighbors. First, the future sober living homes located close to a school or daycare should be certified and adhere to minimum standards in our state. Local governments may choose to require these homes get certified with best practice organizations. Second of all, local governments may regulate these homes' operations, including applicable health, safety, and building codes. And lastly, local governments could require the residents of these homes to receive a referral or recommendation from a licensed healthcare provider or the court. Any decision made by local government would need to comply with the Federal Fair Housing Act and the American with Disabilities Act. This bill does not aim to harm those seeking recovery, but it does aim to hold sober living home operators accountable. Lastly, I want to thank Commissioner Williams for her feedback on this language, and this amendment incorporates her request to pilot the program in Hamilton County only and expands referrals to any court to reduce unnecessary burdens on residents. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer any question.
Thank you for the explanation of the bill. We do have guests to testify on this. Representative Dixie, you're up. Do you want to wait till after the guest? Go ahead.
Quick question for the sponsor. I just was wondering, can you get a referral from a doctor for alcoholism?
Representative Martin.
Sure.
I'm not sure. That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay, that's my question.
All right. Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we're going to go out of session, and we are going to hear from Paul Stevens. Mr. Stevens, if you will give us your name, who you're with, and you will have 3 minutes, we will control your mic.
Paul Stevens with Oxford House. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about HB 783. I represent Oxford House Incorporated and the 175 Oxford Houses of Tennessee. Oxford House is the oldest, largest, and most successful model of recovery residence for individuals recovering from substance use disorders, with over 4,000 homes nationwide. Oxford House Incorporated is the certifying organization offering technical assistance and compliance monitoring to the houses through field staff in Tennessee, thanks to our 12-year partnership with the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. Per NIH-funded research, we have an 86% long-term abstinence success rate. When compared to usual care conditions post-treatment, we have double the long-term abstinence, over 2 times the monthly income, and 3 times lower criminal offense rates. We are widely considered the gold standard of evidence-based recovery residences. While I am certain it is not the sponsor's intent to harm Tennesseans, this bill will establish barriers to housing that will limit access, drive up costs, and create critical delays for entry to supportive sober living for an already vulnerable population with limited resources and housing challenges. These barriers will also threaten the viability of good operators, particularly Oxford Houses, which are entirely non-commercial and financially self-supporting, only creating an additional shortage of resources. According to the Hamilton County Medical Examiner's Office, Hamilton County saw the number of emergency room visits for drug-related overdoses double from 1,051 in 2021 to 2,010 in 2022. Tragically, 226 citizens of Hamilton County lost their lives to a drug overdose in 2022, overwhelmingly due to the scourge of fentanyl. Oxford Houses and other recovery residences provide the highest likelihood of individuals in recovery achieving long-term recovery and not returning to active addiction. In the end, the barriers this bill create may cost lives because of the critical nature and timeliness of the needs of those in early recovery. We believe there are significant issues with ADA and FHA compliance throughout the entire bill, with existing case law to support that. Oxford Houses rent directly from local landlords. Leases renew annually or biannually, but the goal is to remain in a location for decades. The Oxford House model strongly emphasizes being good neighbors in the community, and residents who threaten that status and reputation are asked to leave. Recovery residences are filled with individuals determined to be law-abiding, respectful, and productive members of society and their local community. This bill appears to be a response to an incident in which a resident of a recovery residence was the victim of a crime, the facts of which the local media have grossly misrepresented and sensationalized. Oxford House and other models focus heavily on individual responsibility and group accountability. More is expected in an Oxford House than other settings, and the model enables and demands high standards in residents' recovery, personal lives, house operations, and fiscal responsibility. Oxford Houses are for long-term residency and long-term recovery. House leaders often have multiple years in recovery and guide and hold new members accountable. HB 783 will generate barriers to housing, violates federal law, and will have the consequence of harming, not helping Tennesseans and Tennessee's quality recovery residence models, possibly costing lives. I implore you not to vote for this bill. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Does anybody have any questions for our guest? Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Stevens, I'm just looking through this amendment that he's got filed, and really the only restriction that I see is 1,000 feet from a K through 12 school. Most of the rest of the amendment is definitions and so forth. And I'm all about recovery and second chances. And I support several of those who've served on the board of Teen Challenge for a number of years. And so really the only restriction I'm seeing is a requirement for 1,000 feet from a K through 12 school. So how is this going to create a shortage? Number one is my first question. Number two, I'm not seeing how it would violate any type of ADA rules because we have zoning requirements in most of your larger cities.
Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Yeah, our primary concern, and it is, I believe it's still in the bill, is the requirement that people would have to go and get a medical referral indicating medical necessity of moving into a recovery residence. That is what's going to add time and cost and possibly delay people's entry into these critical supportive homes. And as far as the ADA FHA, I'm not a lawyer. My general counsel has told me that he's confident that the spacing requirement has case law that suggests it's a violation of the FHA, but I really can't speak any further to that. It's not my expertise. I apologize.
Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Stevens, do you think it's a good idea to restrict these homes to be at least 1,000 feet from a K through 12?
Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think it's necessary. No, I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's necessary. We have homes throughout the country that are that close to schools and nobody has an objection to them whatsoever. They're perfectly good neighbors and good members of the community.
Representative Butler for
Thank you, Mr.
follow-up.
Chairman, and I'll finish with this. Obviously, there was an issue in Hamilton County, or this legislation wouldn't be before us. I think it behooves us as a General Assembly to be proactive instead of reactive, and unfortunately, this situation is reactive. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome. Representative Bricken for our guest.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two questions. A client in one of your houses, do they enter a contract with you for a certain period of time?
Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, Oxford houses are designed for the members to live there as long as they want to, as long as it takes for them to get comfortable in long-term sobriety, assuming they stay sober, pay their equal share of expenses, and contribute to the operation of the house.
Representative Bricken.
If you have a client that's becomes a bad character and really becomes very disruptive, what is y'all's procedure, protocol, or whatever of removing him or them or her?
Mr. Stevens. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The House itself will address those issues, enforce rules that they have existing. Typically, they'll put the person on some kind of a behavioral contract, and if they cannot change their behavior, they will expel them. The members of the House will expel them and find somewhere else to suggest they move on to.
Representative Bricken for a
Last
follow-up.
question. If they're expelled, are they put on the street or is law enforcement called to
Mr. Stevens.
get them out of the house, or how is that handled?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Law enforcement is rarely involved. The hope is law enforcement would not have to be involved. And for cases where you're talking about just behavior, not a return to active addiction, all members in Oxford houses move in and they fill out a form that indicates what they would like to see happen if they are asked to leave the house, who to contact, who to take them to, and we try to carry that out as best as we can in the individual houses.
That's fine. Thanks.
Next on the list is Representative Littleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I have a bill that's similar, but I wanted to go ahead and ask you some questions now over his bill and I guess kind of mine as well. You were in my office and we did talk, and you did say there is some grant money that comes into those homes.
Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The house itself operationally is financially self-supporting. However, individual members do often find financial assistance through various sources, governmental or private.
Chairman Littleton.
And how many people stay in your homes?
Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The average is somewhere around 7 to 8.
Chair Lady Littleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And they do share bedrooms, is that correct?
Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a mix of singles and doubles. So if they stay for a long time, they can kind of graduate up to a single room, but it's singles and doubles.
Chair Lady Littleton.
And how long does it take to get a single room?
You recognized?
Thank you. That would just vary wildly depending on the house and how many people have decided to stay long-term. I mean, if I said anything, I'd be guessing wildly, but 6 months to 9 months would be my guess, but I'm really not sure.
Chair Lady Littleton for a follow-up.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we talked about this in my office as well, about overnight guests. And so if there's 3 people in a bedroom, where does that guest stay?
Mr. Stevens?
Well, there are never 3 members in a bedroom. There's only 2, and overnight guests are allowed for individuals that have single rooms.
Next on the list is Representative Carringer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I thought I heard you say no one is actually in charge at these homes.
Mr. Stevens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would not say that no one is in charge. I would say that the House primarily operates democratically in a self-governing fashion according to a very strict set of guidelines and system of operations that has been proven to work extraordinarily well over the last 50 years.
Representative Carringer?
So you're relying on these men or women to come to this home and govern themselves.
Mr. Stevens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All the homes belong to local communities of homes that form chapters, and the houses self-police as well. In addition to that, in Tennessee, there are 17 field staff that work for Oxford House Incorporated that are constantly in interaction with the houses so as to make sure they're complying with the model. And when they fail to do so and the house fails to correct that and the chapter fails to correct that, the staff from Oxford House Incorporated will get involved.
Representative Carringer?
So I've got one more where it's like, so what are the requirements? I know you thought it was difficult to get a physician or somebody to give them a letter to say they need to be there, they qualify or whatever. So what are the requirements for them to be able to come and be a part of one of these homes? And I'm for giving people second chances and helping. Addiction's very real. It's in, I think, everybody's family. Nobody escapes that. But alcohol-free and drug-free homes, if no one is in charge and you're expecting each other to kind of obey the rules, that doesn't happen. So I just wondering what the requirements are and how do these people go about finding out about these homes to be, a member of them?
Mr. Stevenson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, according to a lot of sound research, it actually does work extraordinarily well. It may be counterintuitive to the public, but this model works better than any other managed or staffed model in existence. And the requirements to live in or to apply to an Oxford House is you have to be through a period of detox if that's something that you require, because obviously it's not a medical facility. And you have to be able to pay your equal share of expenses and be capable of contributing to the operation of the house.
Representative Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Stevenson, currently, how many houses do you have within, I guess, Tennessee?
Mr. Stevens?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 175.
And
Representative Miller?
are each of those currently in reference to a distance not less than 1,000 feet from K through 12 educational facilities, preschools, or daycare facilities?
Mr. Stevens?
I apologize. I do not know the answer to that question.
Representative Miller for follow-up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So this particular bill now is, would you say it's directed toward one of your facilities?
Mr. Stevens?
Thank you. It appears to be in reaction to an incident that happened to a member of an Oxford House, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McCalman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Stevens, you said you don't find it necessary for any of these houses to be more than 1,000 feet away from a school?
Mr. Stevens?
No more than any other residential family unit.
Representative McCalman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Stevens, so to my colleague from Coffee County's earlier point that oftentimes law enforcement isn't involved if a member is expelled, but if a member is expelled from one of your houses, I mean, and is potentially a disgruntled, you don't see a potential for threat if they're next door to a school?
Mr. Stevens?
It is not no, and it's not been my experience that occurs. I've worked for the organization for 20 years.
Representative McCalman, do you have a follow-up? Representative Mitchell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Stevens, does any of your houses ever have any bad neighbors?
Mr. Stevens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, they do, as a matter of fact.
Representative Mitchell?
What is your recourse to remove them and move them out?
Mr. Stevens?
We have no recourse.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for our guest? Seeing none. Representative Chairman Moon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While we're out of session, could we have legal give us some guidance on the 1,000-foot restriction as it concerns this bill? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Chairman Moon. Legal, you're recognized.
Thank you, Matt Mundy from the record. There actually isn't a 1,000-foot restriction. It references 1,000 feet from a K through 12 educational facility for the purposes of requiring those sober living homes within that distance to be certified by an approved organization that is maintained by the Department of Mental Health on their website, which they currently do maintain these umbrella organizations that have certification standards for sober living homes. That's what the 1,000-foot perimeter around the school educational facilities are referring to. As far as the other requirements of the bill, there's no mandate for compliance with local codes. There's no mandate for requiring a healthcare provider or a court referral. That would be at the discretion of the local government when they adopt an ordinance to make sure that any of the requirements that are permissively available in this legislation to be compliant with the ADA and the FHA.
All right. Seeing no other hands raised for our guest, thank you, Mr. Stevens, for being with us in your testimony today. Without objection, we're going to go back in session. We're back in session, and I will recognize sponsor Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things I want to say is that this was not an event that was sensationalized by the media, but this was an event that was experienced by the neighbors. And the neighbors who called me concerned about their children on the way to school. Since 2019, 10 calls of emergency services to this particular situation that precipitated this. Second of all, it was mentioned that these homes are locally owned. Perhaps some are, but the one that I know of is owned by someone that is not local. Third of all, I would want to say that it's not about having a recommendation from a physician, but from a medical licensed person or the courts. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a physician. And as far as barriers, I want to say also that as representative from Morgan County, from Butler, I too have served on the Teen Challenge Board, the one of the Mid-South. I have a great heart and compassion for people that are wanting to overcome drug and alcohol, and I've invested a considerable amount of my life into that. I want these to be good actors where people can have the opportunity and have some accountability. The final thing I would say, Mr. Chairman, is the statement being made that the House enforces the rules, but I would add also sometimes the House doesn't enforce the rules. And that's why you've had 10 events since 2019. That's why you had this particular event. And so we're just trying to give the local government a tool that they can use that is not going to compromise the federal Fair Housing Act or the American with Disabilities. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any other question.
Any questions for the sponsor? Representative Dixie.
For clarification to the sponsor, is it 10 events at this one house or just 10 events throughout Tennessee?
Sponsor.
No, 10 events at the house.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the sponsor?
Jake.
Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 783, moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. All those in favor, vote yes on the board. Those opposed, no. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 15 ayes, 7 nays.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. House Bill 773 by Representative Powers. Do I have a motion? Got a proper motion and second? Hang on just a second. I don't see him. Okay. Thank you, sir. We got a proper motion and second. We do have an untimely filed amendment. It is amendment number 7284. Would the committee, we're voting to hear the untimely filed amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. We will hear the untimely filed amendment. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, we're placing amendment number 7284 on to House Bill 773. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Your bill is now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 773, it provides that when legal notices, except for foreclosures, are required to be published in a newspaper of general circulation, the notice must also be published on the news and information website if one would exist in that particular area, county. Requires any news and information website on which legal notices must be published be a separate and distinct website from the newspaper of general circulation that is owned by an entity other than the newspaper of general circulation. Prohibits legal notices from being published in a news and information website that requires a fee or a subscription for a person to view the website. This does not affect our newspapers at all. It simply adds another layer of transparency for legal notices for the general public. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I renew my motion. Be glad to take any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Is there any questions? We do have guest speakers. Would you all like to hear from the guest speaker first? Without objection, we'll go out of session. We're out of session and we will hear from Mr. Mark Millsap. Mr. Millsap, we will control your microphone. You will give us your name, who you're with, and you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Thanks, Chairman. Thank you, committee. My name is Mark Millsap. I'm the executive director of the Tennessee Press Association, representing 131 newspapers in Tennessee. I'm here today to speak in opposition of House Bill 773. I do want to make one thing perfectly clear to start out. This does not affect the newspaper notice. This does not affect the newspaper notice requirement. However, it affects every single public notice customer that we have. Anybody that's going to place a public notice, legal notice, whatever you want to call it, a paid notice in the paper is going to be affected because this will increase the cost of every public notice that's placed. TPA has a sister organization. It's called the Tennessee Press Service. We place ads and public notices in states and newspapers. Some of our customers are state agencies like the Tennessee Highway Patrol, Tennessee Department of Environment, Tennessee Real Estate and Assessment Management, just to name a few. These state agencies will have to pay more every time they publish a paid notice. But the cost of these notices is not defined very well in the proposed law. These state agencies could be paying double or more than what they are now. The state agencies will be paying more if this law goes into effect. I'm surprised by the fiscal note on the bill that states any impact on state or local government will not be significant. State agencies, again, are going to be impacted greatly. Local government entities, cities, and counties will be highly impacted and will be paying more for their notices. So every notice that they do for bids, vendors, election notices, meeting agendas, every single notice is going to cost more. I'd also like to point out that when public notices are placed in a newspaper, we automatically post a notice on the newspaper website where readership is over 21 million readers among all the Tennessee newspapers. And it's also placed on a statewide website with over 1 million readers. So it's already placed on 2 different websites. That content is free to view already. that content free to view on 2 different websites. This new amendment that just happened, which was untimely filed, it just magnifies my point. This bill it's flawed. All right. By carving out the foreclosure notices with this new amendment, there's already a problem with this bill. What's going to be carved out next? You're going to carve out state. You're going to carve out the cities and the counties on the notices. This bill's not needed. I ask for your vote no on this bill, please.
Thank you. You've heard from our guest. We do have a few questions for you, starting with Representative Warner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, sir, and thank you for coming today. What does the press, what do y'all charge for ads?
As far as public notices, you mean? Public notices are charged a classified rate. And what I mean by classified rate is when you put a garage sale notice in the classified section, that's what public notices rates are. So you're talking 25 cents a word, 50 cents a word, possibly 75 cents a word. But it's charged by the word, anywhere between about 25 and 75 cents per word. But it's just like a garage sale or a yard sale ad that you're doing. So it matters, you can control the cost by what you put in a public notice.
Representative Warner.
Right. So if it's say if it's a foreclosure and they're giving a legal description of the property and it's, all the calls and everything on the, it can get quite expensive, right?
Yes, sir. I'm so glad.
Millsap.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm so glad you brought up foreclosure notices because you heard a lot about a foreclosure bill that was coming through, and we're worried about cost. A lot of people are, but you're exactly right. On a foreclosure notice, if it's a development that has multiple descriptions in it, it could be a full page notice. And I know that some people have been shown a full page notice from the Tennessean costing $3,000. That was for a development with 22, 25 tracks and legal descriptions that had to be included in there with maps and things like that. So you're exactly right. You start controlling it by the word. You put in there what you need to. Some people that put the notices in put a little bit more in there to cover themselves, which is fine, but it is by the word.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Representative Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The public notice, I want to, if you can expand on that, just assume the state needs to notify the community about closing a road or building a new road or have a public meeting about that in my district dealing with the state park.
Correct.
Right now, they're in the newspaper. Under this bill, would the state still require to be published in the paper?
Mr. Millsap.
Yes, sir, it will be. And that's why I start off saying it does not affect the newspaper notice requirement where it gets put into a newspaper in print. It goes on the newspaper website, and it also goes already onto a statewide website. Both of those things are free to view.
So under this bill, another vendor can, and why would, what's the, I'll ask the sponsor, you can answer. What do you think the genesis for this bill is? What's causing this?
Mr. Millsap.
Well, I believe the genesis of this bill is for a radio station in Representative Powers' district to want to get into the public notice game.
To be on
Representative Bricken.
So the radio station has a website?
From what I understand, they do.
Mr. Millsap.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry.
Okay.
I don't have anybody else on the list for the guest. Without objection, we'll go back in session. We're back in session. And you've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Does anybody have any questions for the sponsor?
I have a comment if you.
You're recognized.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to clarify a couple of things. First of all, the foreclosure notices, no, they're not included in. They can get very long, very detailed, and that would cost a lot of money. So that's why we took those out, because what we're interested in is public notices, and it's not just my county or my area. I've talked to people in Williamson County, Rutherford County, other counties too, that the main reason for bringing this is so many people now do not read just regular newspaper, and newspapers are once a week. I know in my area, all 3 papers are one time a week. and which is great. I read them every week, but sometimes these public notices need a quicker response or a quicker notification. And the rate, he was talking about the rate, it's also in the amendment, charge a rate for such a publication is calculated by the word, just like a newspaper. The rate for each word must be comparable and not exceed the established rate the owner charges other advertisers, just like a newspaper. So this would primarily include things like government contracts, permits, community information, even environmental conditions that may affect a community. So it does not include foreclosure notices, but it does include other public notices like that. And so many people, like I said, do not read the paper. The younger generation, I know I talk to people that are 30, 35 and younger. They hardly ever read a paper, but they're always reading something online. And we have a lot of counties, most counties have like an online news and information website. So that's the reason for this bill.
Representative Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess, I mean, I agree with you that the newspaper reading is certainly, just put it down, way down. But if I was, if it was a state agency or a bidding contract, and the rules was that I need to provide a public notice. If this bill passes, the option of the public notice, does it drop off from the newspaper totally, or is it or can the online posting satisfy the state statutes for public notice?
Representative Powers.
No, it does not affect the newspaper at all. It would still be published both in the newspaper and an online website if there was one available in that area with the conditions that I have in the bill.
Representative Bricken for a follow-up.
Yes. So the entity that needs to file the public notice, they would still satisfy the newspaper. So they're going beyond what their requirement is by going to the website. They wouldn't even have to go under this bill. Would they have to go to the website too?
Representative Powers.
Yes, if there was one available, some counties do not have them, other counties do, but if there was one available in that county where where the bid was being placed, they would. So it would be, it would be in the newspaper, right, and on the website too. Yes.
Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 773, moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 present not voting.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. Item number 34 is House Bill 1351 by Chair Lady Littleton. Got a proper motion and second. Chair Lady Littleton, I do see we have an amendment. Please give us your drafting code.
7125.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second on the amendment. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Yes, please.
Without objection, we're voting on amendment 7125 going on to House Bill 1351. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. Chair Lady Littleton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is kind of a follow-up of what I was talking about a while ago, and a follow-up maybe with Representative Martin's bill as well. We've in Dixon County, that I'm talking about it, but it's a growing problem all over. But and this will be statewide. We're asking for a certification that that the Department of Mental Health would do for all of our sober living homes across the state, and the Department of Mental Health Services will select and approve organizations needing to be established with minimum standards. And we're hoping that this will help with everybody be a good neighbor, not just the sober living homes, but the people around them too. We're hoping that this will help. And also we will let the EMTs and the police know where the houses are so that they'll know when they're called what they could be walking into, like an overdose or something like that. So I've worked on this bill for probably, I said it earlier, probably I put more hours into this probably than any one bill of my 13 years that I've been here. So we've worked hard to try and make this right and good for all in the community. So we want everybody to be good neighbors, and we think this will be the beginning of it. And this is statewide.
You have heard the explanation of the sponsor. Do we have any questions for the sponsor? Representative Powell?
Just a question, if I could. So the final decision making on who comes up with the guidelines and stuff falls to who? And do you have an idea of what those might be? I know you touched on some different things, but if you
Chair
can
Lady
kinda-
Littleton?
They are in the bill.
Representative Powell?
So then this would effectively go into place if with the bill we just passed. If there was an existing facility or a home within a school, would it still get permitted, or how would that work?
Chair Lady Littleton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. His bill does not apply to this bill at all because his is only for Hamilton County.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Lady Littleton, I do have someone signed up to speak. Do you want them to speak? I couldn't hear what he said.
He's drawing it.
Mr. Chairman, I think he spoke and I asked him a few questions and he was going to say the same thing about my bill that he said about Representative.
Thank you very much. All right, you've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Any other questions for the sponsor, Representative McCalman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 1351. Moving on out to get my paper. I don't know where it's going. Okay, this will be going out to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, will you open the board for voting? Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you will close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 18 ayes, 5 nays.
Chair Lady Littleton, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Representative Howell. No, we still got one more. House Bill 1358 by Chair Lady Littleton. Proper motion and second. I do see we have an amendment. Can you please give us your drafting code?
6222.
Let's try again.
Well,
5343.
I have 5343.
it's 5343.
Okay. All right.
Sorry
Do I have
about
a
that.
motion on the 5343? Proper motion and second. Would you like us to place it on the bill for discussion?
Yes, please.
Without objection, we're placing amendment number 5343 onto House Bill 1358. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill as amended, it says by January of 2026 requires the Department of Children's Services to begin construction on a facility in the Western Grand Division of Tennessee to house children who have been detained while awaiting adjudication on allegations of delinquency and or unruliness.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsors. Are there any questions? Representative Martin. Previous questions been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 1358. Moving out to Finance, Ways and Means. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 22 ayes, 0 nays.
Chair Lady Littleton, your bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. Next on today's calendar is House Bill 73 by Chairman Howell. Got a proper motion and second. I do see we have an amendment. Well, please give us your drafting code.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 5976.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second. We will place the amendment on the bill for discussion. All those in favor of amendment number 5976 going on to House Bill 73, please say aye. Opposed, no. Your bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 73 came from my district. At its core, it is a simple private property issue. But in order for the members to understand the genesis of the bill, I need to take, Mr. Chairman, at least a couple of minutes to explain.
Go ahead, sir.
How we got here. The situation involves a private property owner in Polk County who decided to donate 20 acres of land and a 30,000 square foot building to the Boys and Girls Club, Ocoee region, which is in my district. It is one of the largest clubs in the state of Tennessee with 17 units serving 1,100 kids a day. The building in question was built in the 1940s as a corporate office for the old Tennessee Copper Company, which at one time was the largest copper mining company in the world. But it has sat empty since the late 1980s when the copper company closed, and it then transitioned into a Superfund site. The EPA controlled it. It transitioned then into private ownership in 2008. In 2012, the new owner that got the property in 2008 offered the corporate office building, which is quite a nice building, to the State Historic Commission to be placed on the National Register of Historic Places. The Historic Commission looked at it and said, we're not interested. Again, in 2017, the owner offered it to the Historic Commission, and he also, out of his own pocket, hired a consultant to research the history of the site, put together a presentation packet, send it to the Historic Commission again. And again, the commission said they had no interest in putting the property on the registry. So you fast forward to 2024, the owner of the property decided to donate this building plus 20 acres to the Boys and Girls Club Ocoee region. And at the time, he had a cash offer from a very wealthy businessman in Nashville for $1 million. He turned the offer down, and he decided that instead the Boys and Girls Club needed it more than he did, and he donated it to them for nothing. So the deed was transferred, and in early 2024, the county commission applied for a CDBG grant on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club. The grant was approved. The grant will be used to hire an architect, which is already working on the project. The money will be used to update the building, remove asbestos, install outside fire escape. It's a 3-story building with 1 story in the ground, the basement. Very inefficient. The windows need to be replaced and make some cosmetic changes that the children will certainly enjoy. Because the property is located on a former Superfund site, which has been reclaimed and the EPA has signed off on it, as well as TDEC, the CDBG grant triggered an environmental study to make sure that the Boys and Girls Club site was free of carcinogens and any kind of chemical debris. It passed with flying colors. That in turn triggered a review, and that's what the code says, review. Triggered a review by the Historic Commission. The code says review, not regulate. The site passed the environmental study, and now we've been waiting since May of 2024 for the Historic Commission to sign off on the review, a process that should take about 2 weeks. So a meeting was scheduled in early May of last year. 2 staff members from the Historic Commission came to a meeting at the site attended by the director of the Boys and Girls Club, Ocoee Region, 4 board members, as well as Senator Adam Lowe and the former owner of the property. I could not be on site because I was here chairing a fiscal review committee. And as the meeting began, it was very tense, and the THC staff began to explain to the privately owned owners, Boys and Girls Club, what they could and could not do to their private property, which, by the way, I'll reiterate, has been declined twice by the registry. This bill simply says if a property has been offered to the THC for registry and the THC has declined that offer, then moving forward, they have no standing to tell the property owner what they can and cannot do with their private property. The THC can still, by code, review the process, which would include making sure that the environmental studies are done correctly, that they've filled out the applications correctly and done all the things that any review process would do, but they cannot coerce the new owner into signing an MOU allowing the THC to regulate that property, obstruct the process as they have since May of 2024. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to take any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsors. Do we have any questions? Representative Butler. Well, I thought you had questions first. Okay. All right. We do have someone signed up to speak, I think.
No, we didn't.
Let me find the names. No, we do not have anyone signed up to speak. So your question, Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Chairman Howell, I'm a little taken back by this whole process that the Tennessee Historical Commission, which I'm supporting preserving our history, but if they've had 2 opportunities to incorporate this on the registry and turned it down, what would make them think after the fact that they would have the ability to regulate?
Chairman Howell.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's the question we've all been asking. And the MOU that they coerced, and I hate to use that term, but that's what it was. They coerced the people into signing. Apparently was just an effort to gain control of the property so that they could tell the new owners what to do with it. The 2 THC staffers, and this is not me, I wasn't there, but I've had 5 different people tell me that who was there, created the impression that during the meeting that they could cancel the grant if the Boys and Girls Club didn't sign an MOU. There's nothing in the code that says they have to sign an MOU. It says they review it. And of course, if you sign the MOU, it gives the THC the right to regulate and change the building. And they didn't like anything the architect had done. So they denied it twice. Why are we doing it again? Interesting to me, not to prolong the issue, but it's interesting to me that the director of the THC testified on this bill in the Senate committee that his office, and I quote, has no authority to cancel the grant. So my question is, why did his staff create the impression that they did? So the MOU was signed under duress and false pretense, and that's the reason for this bill.
Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One more question. So when the THC came in to offer their suggestions, if that's the word we need to use, did it drive up the cost for Boys and Girls Club? I mean, obviously it's stalled the whole process, and here we are 10 or 11 months later, and the building's still not finished because it's been delayed. So that's obviously a detriment to the children that would be utilizing this Boys and Girls Club.
Representative Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, the architects estimate that if they instituted the changes that the MOU that they signed under duress were instituted, it would cost them another $200,000.
Representative Butler for a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll close with this, which I'm sure that they're already using donated funds and grants that they can get. So that could potentially inhibit them from being able to finish the project. Is that
Yes,
correct?
those funds are
Chairman Powell.
dedicated to that property. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next on our list is Representative Powell.
Thank you to the sponsor. I know a lot of people confuse us with Howell and Powell, along with Representative Powers. I just wanted to say, with you going through that, I was confusing you with Paul Harvey. So I appreciate you telling us the rest of the story.
I do, Mr. Chairman.
You're recognized.
I do apologize for the lengthy rhetorical, whatever you want to call it, but I felt it was necessary in order to explain how I got this bill. And it has upset a lot of people in my district, including me.
Next on the list is Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, sponsor, and kind of on the back of my great friend here behind me, Representative Butler. This is a sad situation. First of all, I can say thank you for bringing a bill. Tell your folks back in your county, thank you for donating this to furnish a place for these young folks to get off the street or just to help them move along in life. And the third thing is I urge you to tell your folks or urge them to take any legal recourse they got to recoup any costs that this has cost them, because this is not fair and it's not right.
Hopefully, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll stop with that.
Hopefully this bill, it's already passed the Senate, by the way. Hopefully this bill will rectify the situation.
Thank you.
Representative Mitchell.
Question on the bill.
Question's been called. We are ready to vote on House Bill 73. Moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote. Go.
I got distracted.
Madam
Mr. Chair,
Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 1 nay.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. We are going to jump over to item 51. It's the chairman's bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is item 51, House Bill 627. We do have a proper motion and second. Do you have an amendment?
I do, sir. It is amendment number 6949,
You wish for it to be placed on the bill?
if possible.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second on the amendment? Have motion, proper motion and second on the amendment. All in favor of adding the amendment to the bill, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Mr. Chairman, your bill as amended, you may present.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill was brought to me by the Tennessee Tourism and Hospitality Association. What this bill seeks to do is make a uniformity between the tourism industry. The first part of this bill is set forth with definitions. We are defining the word tourism development, tourism promotion, and a definition of tourist. These have all been through several hands, several different committees, the industry leaders, and as well as the cities and counties are all on board. Third party of this bill extends the grandfathering language for counties and cities, and there is a cleanup provision within there that the comptroller's office added for an audit report. The other thing this bill seeks to do is take make an 8% cumulative tax rate, if I could read my writing, for the counties, 4% for the counties, 4% for the cities. And if a county or city has already currently got that rate at 4%, then they are grandfathered in. That's what this bill does.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been the practice of the committee in the past, and we're just placing it in code. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are there people with questions of the presenter? Representative Dixie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A quick question. Section 4 of the amendment is related to short-term rentals. They account for about $46 million here in Davidson County. My question is, well, two questions. Currently, can the city of Nashville use this $46 million to whatever they want to, or does it have to go to tourism? And does this bill change that?
Chairman Crawford.
Let me get over to the section. You said section 4?
Yes, sir.
You're asking if the tax rate that they receive back can be used for anything other than tourism?
Yes.
It can. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does this bill, so the bill doesn't change that at all, so that's
No.
great. Last question. Is there a reason that we're not capping the rate on STR since we're capping the rate on the hotels?
We are capping it. We're capping it at 8% complete total.
Okay. Could I ask just legal one question just for clarity?
I'm not the chairman right now. I'm the chairman.
Yes. Any objection to going out of session to ask legal question? Seeing none, we're out of session. Question to legal. Representative Dixie, your question.
All right. So currently the taxes collected and remitted by the STR, the short-term rental platforms, are exactly the rate of the local and state hotel and motel tax. Does this bill change that? And could a city charge more than the STR property owner than what they charge a hotel? So two questions.
Legal. Take your time.
We could have Representative Howell tell us some more about this.
Legal.
Thank you, Matt Mundy, for the record. Within the definition of hotel for this part, short-term rentals are included, so the 4% cap for cities and counties would apply unless it's the tax for short-term rentals is levied by a private act and it's grandfathered in.
Representative Dixie.
Okay, so I guess my next question, and then maybe you did answer it, says, could a city charge more to a local short-term rental property owner than what they charge a hotel? Or is it
Legal.
just capped?
It's capped at 4% regardless of whether it's a hotel or a short-term rental.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions for legal while we're out of session? Seeing none, we are back in session. Are there other questions of the presenter? Is there objection to the question? Seeing no objection, we are ready to vote on House Bill 627. No, right here. Would the clerk open the vote? Madam Clerk, would you close the vote and announce the results?
Mr. Chair, you have 22 ayes, 0 nays.
House Bill 627 moves on to finance.
Thanks. The next item today is item 58, House Bill 1423. I see Chairman Hurt has come in, so we will take that up. Do I have a motion and a second? Proper motion and second. Representative Hurt, I do see we have a drafting code. Can you please give us it?
On the amendment, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused here. I have amendment 7252.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second. Representative Hurt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I apologize, but actually just earlier today, I noticed there is actually a typo in my amendment. And I didn't know how to handle it, and I didn't have a chance to catch up. but it says immediately instead of immediate on the language to delete.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yes.
Chairman Moon. Chairman Moon. All right, Representative Hurt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In discussion, I would request that we roll this a week.
Without objection, we're going to roll House Bill 1423 1 week.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee.
Item number 37. This is House Bill 636 by Representative Burkhart. Got a proper motion and second. Representative Burkhart, I do see some amendments. Can you please give us the drafting code of the amendment you'd like to run? 6558 is correct. I've got a proper motion and second on the amendment. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Yes, sir.
Without objection, we're voting on Amendment 6558 going on to House Bill 636. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is an amendment to legislation that the General Assembly passed last year. I believe Representative Carr had it. Last year's bill was limited to residential development in beneficial partnerships between local governments and private developers as a tool for building infrastructure for municipalities. All we're doing simply here is just adding commercial to the bill that already says residential. And with that, I'll be glad to try to answer any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 636. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor, please say aye. No, we got to go to the board. Madam Clerk, open the board. That is so hard to get used to. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 0 nays.
Representative Burkhart, your bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Item number 38, House Bill 977 by Representative Burkhart. Got a proper motion and second. I do see we have an amendment. Please give us your drafting code.
4486.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second on the amendment. We'll place the amendment on the bill for discussion. Amendment number 4. All those in favor of amendment number 4486 going on to House Bill 977, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this bill does, this is a bridge bill for public safety that is permissive from cities and counties for police and firefighters. Right now, the bill is a 25 years of service, 55 years of age. And you can leave at any time to draw. If you leave at 55 years old, you could draw 7 years on your bridge up until age 62. What this bill allows you to do is to work until age 60 or 62, and you still get to draw the bridge until you're 67 years old. This simply does not take the bridge away from you. simply because you decided to work 5 more years. And with that, I'll try to answer any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Any question for the sponsor? Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 977. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. All those in favor vote yes on the board. Those opposed, no. You thought I'd forgot, didn't you? Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change the vote? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
All right, House Bill 620 by Representative Eldridge. Chairman Eldridge. Proper motion in second. Chairman Eldridge, I don't see any amendments. You're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request from Hamlin County to be included as one of the Tennessee counties authorized to establish convenience voting centers. It is supported by the Election Commission, which passed it unanimously, the resolution, and then the resolution on the county side, they passed it with an 11-2 vote. So I would ask for your consideration on it.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor, Representative Mitchell? Question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 620. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor, please say aye. No, we're going to the board. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. House Bill 381 is next by Chairman Eldridge. Proper motion and second. I do see we have some amendments. Can you please give us your drafting code?
I have a list. Oh, no, I'm sorry. There is one in there.
Yes.
Don't have it right here.
The
in front
one
of
we
me.
have is 7122.
Okay.
Second.
Got a proper motion and second. Without objection, we're going to place amendment 7122 on to House Bill 381. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized, Chairman Eldridge, on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the liquor by the drink omnibus bill, and I'd take any questions, but that's what it does.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor, Representative Miller?
Previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 381. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. All those in favor, please vote yes on the board or no on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 16 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 present not voting.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. Item number 41, House Bill 457 by Chairman Rudd. Proper motion in second. I do see we have an amendment. Would you please give us your drafting code, Chairman Rudd?
6273.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on 6273? Proper motion in second. We'll place the amendment on the bill for discussion. Without objection, we're placing amendment number 6273 on the House Bill 457. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. Chairman Rudd, you're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you. This is our kind of an annual cleanup bill. I'll read what it does throughout. The legislation aligns the latest date a county election commission can count any provisional ballots to the third Monday after Election Day, potentially requiring one less meeting before the election can be certified, so it saves the locals money. Next, it clarifies when a notice of the Provisional Counting Board must be published and allows the notice to be combined with the notice listing of the election day polling places and hours, also saving money since we can do that with one ad. It specifically prohibits internet voting, which is already the current practice, but it puts it in law, clearly defined. The bill explicitly prohibits any marked ballot from being submitted online and any voting machine from being connected to the internet, which again is our current practice, but we're putting it in code. The legislation strengthens voter list management by restoring the ability to use a voter's inactivity and failure to respond to an election commission notice as an indicator that the voter may have moved. This option was in law, but it was removed due to a Sixth Circuit courts when they struck down a similar law in Ohio. The Supreme Court since then has overturned the Sixth Circuit decision and said our previous law and Ohio's law was legal, so we're putting that law back into place. It clarifies that in order for a registration to be considered as an in-person registration, an applicant must be present, a valid photo ID or verification of their address. It clarifies that the administrator of county elections may only print a voter registration card and hand it to the applicant when the voter has presented verification of the residential address. All other voter registration cards can be mailed or must be mailed. Finally, it aligns the deadline to purge voter registration records based on the systematic list maintenance activities that is allowed by current federal law. So we're just adapting what's in current federal law. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that's what the bill does. It's
You've
more
heard
of a
the
cleanup bill.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Any questions for the sponsor? Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 457. Moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor, please vote yes on the board. Those opposed, no. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 16 ayes, 5 nays.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. Item 42, House Bill 456 by Chairman Rudd. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Proper motion and second. I do see we have an amendment. Please give us your drafting code.
6073.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second on the amendment. We will now place amendment 6073 on the House Bill 456. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Chairman Rudd, you're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This legislation is definitely a cleanup bill. We found a loophole in the law dealing with PACs and corporations. It requires that corporations that advertise before it simply stated it didn't have the word advocating in when they were in a campaign. So we're putting the word advocating in to also identify if a corporation is spending money, they need to be registered as a PAC. Also, we had a campaign that they're spending money on a campaign, but if the person was between elections, the elected official was not currently in the law. It was vague. So we've added campaign or elected official if they're spending money against that official or in favor of that official. So that simply cleans that up, and it states that if you meet these two, it adds the word advocating and adds elected official twice in code. And with that, it says that corporations have to be treated as a PAC if they're spending money under those conditions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sponsored with this, so just to give an example, if my pool guy has a corporation and he wants to support my campaign and donate $1,000, would this force him to register as a PAC? Because currently he can donate $1,000 without having to register. Would that affect him?
Chairman Rudd.
No, it states if it's a corporation and corporate money is being spent in the same way that a PAC spends it. The only thing we've done in the section 1 of the code is we simply added if a corporation is using corporate money or credits or communicating expressly supporting or opposing an election or defeat of a clearly defined candidate, we just added and elected or elected official, because not all elected officials are candidates if they're between elections. But everything else that's in code dealing with who can spend money or not, that's stays the same. We're not addressing that.
Representative McCalvin for follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Rudd, so this wouldn't be, so again, he wanted to donate from his corporation to support me, who's a friend of his. He wouldn't be prohibited from being able to donate on behalf of his corporation. But if he was wanting to support a campaign against me or another individual, then he'd have to register as a PAC. Is that my
Chairman
understanding?
Rudd.
That would be correct. As they do now, Mr. McCalvin. But the word, it says in a campaign basically during an election, but this kind of cleans it up and verifies or an elected official. That way, if they put out mail or do advertising in between elections, there also would have to be as a PAC. That was omitted from code and we're just cleaning that up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You've heard the explanation of the chairman. Is there any other questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 456, moving on to government operations. All those in favor, please vote aye on the board. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Bill moves on to government operations. Next on today's list is item 43, still part of the Rudd portion of our agenda, is House Bill 317. We got a proper motion in second. I do see that it has an amendment. Please give us your drafting code.
4346.
That is correct. I have a motion on the amendment. Proper motion and second on the amendment. We will now place amendment 4346 on to House Bill 317. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Your bill is now amended, Chairman Rudd.
Thank you, and thank you, committee. Also, I want to thank the committee and stakeholders working with me in subcommittee and since then on the bill, cleaning up a few items. This is a Board of Zoning Appeals reform. It's relatively simple. It simply states that it opens up transparency and openness to the meeting. It requires them to now not may, but shall keep records of their meetings. It was not actually required that they keep records, now that they shall be. We had one other part that Representative Mitchell had asked, had questions about, and I removed it. We are not requiring in the bill for them to state the reason why they are voting one way or the other on a particular measure. We put the language that was in the bill in the code currently, so that is progressive and that is left up to the Board of Zoning Appeals whether they require that, which is current code. And what this does is increases transparency, openness. It clearly defines the appeals process, and it makes it easier for the citizens to appeal Board of Zoning Appeals decisions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Is there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Powell.
Question about, and this maybe is also Representative Mitchell, but so they don't have to state why they voted, but would you still get a record of who voted how?
Representative Rudd.
They now have to keep the minutes. Now, the current code, which is what we reverted back to, as the way it is now, it is permissive for the Board of Zoning Appeals whether they require people to define why they voted a certain way, but we're not requiring it. It's as it is currently.
Representative Powell.
Okay, and I understand why they voted, but would you know how they voted?
Chairman Rudd.
How they voted would be actually in the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Chairman Moon. Question is being called on the bill. We're ready to vote on House Bill 317. Moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor, please vote aye on the board. Those opposed, no. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. We're going to jump over to item 59 now. This is House Bill 318 by Chairman Rudd. Do I have a motion? Proper motion and second. We do not have any amendments. Chairman Rudd, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. This is the legislation states that any policies of the World Health Organization, the United Nations, or the World Economic Forum have no jurisdiction in Tennessee. The previous administration was attempting through policy to apply their decisions. And unless Congress passes it or an executive order, it's passed into law, their policies would not have any jurisdiction over the citizens of Tennessee. Again, unless Congress were to pass a law stating that they do. And that's what the bill does.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 318, moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor, please vote aye on the board. Those opposed, no. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 16 ayes, 5 nays.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. We're going to go to item 44. Let me look and see. Guys, we don't have a whole lot of bills left. I know you're getting tired, but is it okay if we continue to go get these knocked out? All right, here we go. All right, item 44, House Bill 935 by Chairman Moon. Got a proper motion and second. I do see we have an amendment. Chairman Moon, what's your drafting code?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Drafting code 5463.
That is correct. I have a motion, proper motion and second on amendment 5463. Without objection, we will place amendment 5463 on the House Bill 935. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized, Chairman Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 935 comes from Blount County. This bill would allow Blount County to continue to require requests for proposal for insurance brokerage services. Blount County self-insures for medical and health benefits. This bill would create a new part to allow the counties that self-insure and for health to operate under the Purchasing Act of 1957 to require competitive bid process for insurance brokerage service. It's a permissive bill.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor?
Question on the bill.
The question has been called on House Bill 935. All those in favor of House Bill 935, moving on to calendar and rules, please vote aye on the board or nay on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Chairman Moon, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next on our agenda is House Bill 735 by Representative Wright. Do I have a motion? Proper motion and second. Representative Wright, we do see an amendment. Do you give us your drafting code?
Let's turn the page. Just a second.
The drafting code we have is 6983.
6983.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second on the amendment. Without objection, we'll place amendment number 6983 on to House Bill 735. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. Chairman Wright, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill deals with property rights which are established by approval of the local governing development plan. Sort of a summary of background. This is a sister bill to House Bill 1326, which we have already passed and moved on to the Senate. That bill makes the project time for a period of submission of a plan effective when the good plan is presented. What this bill does is it takes out time from a development plan if the plan ends up in court. Litigation is the word I'm looking for, about a permit. The clock doesn't run, in other words, while the legal process is working its way out. With that explanation, I move approval.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 735, moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, you will open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you will close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. We're regarding item 46, House Bill 744 by Chairman Wright. Do I have a motion? Proper motion, and do I have a second? I do see we have an amendment. Please give us the drafting code you need to run, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just short stop all this since we're looking for movement of time. Let me move that this bill be placed on the next available calendar, state and local government 2026.
Without objection, House Bill 744 will be placed on the first calendar of 2025-26. 47, House Bill 152 by Chairman Wright. Do I have a motion? Proper motion and second. Chairman Wright, I do see we have an amendment. Please give us your drafting code.
Is this amendment 4344?
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second on the amendment. We will place the amendment on the bill for discussion. So without objection, all in favor of amendment 4344 going on to House Bill 152, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. Chairman Wright, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, this House Bill 152, it's the Equal Participation Bill via electronic means for local legislative bodies. Subject to local approval by a 2/3 majority vote, local legislative body will have it at its discretion remote participation in only 3 circumstances, with at least 10 requirements that a member of the body may remotely access and represent their constituents. The local legislative body will have the ability to prepare their policy using our guidelines, requires 2/3 majority to produce the policy, or the local legislative body continue with the policy of no remote participation. Currently, boards of education can have this policy. With that, I stand for questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor, Representative Martin?
Mr. Chairman, I know that I'm out of order, but I wanted to introduce my wife, Sheila. She's rarely here in the back, and just want to say hello. Glad that she's here.
Out of order. Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 152. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. All those in favor, please vote aye on the board. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 18 ayes, 3 nays.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. Item number 48, House Bill 1071 by Representative Wright. Proper motion and second. I do see we have an amendment. Please give us your drafting code.
4164.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second on the amendment. Without objection, we will place amendment 4164 on the House Bill 1071. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. Chairman Wright, you're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a revisit of the Tennessee Heritage Act. The Dale Carr word of the day would be seal. Let me quote for just a second from the items that's been passed. Items that are protected by the Tennessee Historical Commission. The list is monument, memorial, bust, nameplate, historical marker, plaque, artwork, flag. Initially, I was just adding the word seal to that, but whenever you can just have one word, why not have 28 words. The amendment says an official government seal of a city or county government that contains imagery representative of historical conflict, historic entity, historic event, historic figure, or historic organization. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Any questions for the sponsor? Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 1071. Moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor, please vote yes on the board. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 16 ayes, 5 nays.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. We're going to jump to item 55. This is House Bill 1436 by Representative Leatherwood. Proper motion and second. Representative Leatherwood, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill removes the animal control program from the City of Bartlett charter, subject to local approval, and this will allow the local governing body to dictate changes to their animal control practices by ordinance going forward rather than having to do a charter change every time.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Mitchell. Question's been called on the bill. All those in favor of House Bill 1436, moving on to calendar and rules, please say aye. Let's vote on the board. All those in favor, vote aye on the board. Opposed on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 19 ayes, 0 nays, and 2 present not voting.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. At this time, I will pass the gavel to Vice Chairman Wright. Next few bills are mine, so Chairman Wright, you have the con.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item is item 49, House Bill 333. Do I have a motion? Have a motion and second. Chairman Crawford, you're recognized on House Bill 333.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill was brought to me by a local constituent from Bristol. He is a firefighter in our community. He has been with us a long time. He's coming up on retirement, and he asked me to carry this bill, and I agree 100% with what he's trying to do. Right now, this bill, or we have in law that a person cannot go beyond the age of 62. If they're part of the fire department, police department, they are required to retire. What this bill would do is we have 2 exceptions in the bill right now, one for police chiefs and one for fire chiefs. And what this bill would do is it would add under the firefighters that if they had the rank equal to or higher than watch commander, they could stay to the age of 65. What this does for us is it saves us a little money because we're not hiring new people. The second thing that it really does is it keeps our experience within the fire departments, train our younger guys. You can train all day long in schools and those type things, but you do not get that experience that you get when you're fighting a fire. So this would really help give our younger firefighters more experience and help us out in the fire department as well. That's what the bill does.
Are there questions of the sponsor? Representative Miller? No, Representative Mitchell.
Move previous question.
Is there objection to the question? Seeing no objection to the question, we're voting on House Bill 333. Madam Clerk, open the board. All those in favor vote yes. Opposed, vote no. Has everyone voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Clerk, please close the board and take the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 0 nays.
The ayes have it. HB 333 moves on to finance. Next item is item 50, House Bill 436. Chairman Crawford, proper motion and second. You're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. House Bill 436. You ask, who does it benefit? This law applies to certain disabled veterans in the state of Tennessee. What does it do? This will allow reimbursement to the disabled veterans for part, if not all, of their property tax that they pay on their own home each year. The reimbursement applies to the first $175,000 of their home at full market value. How does it work? The assessors decide the full market value of the home, and it's only the first $175,000, and that is assessed at 25% of the value to find the taxable amount, and then that is what they are taxed on. This has great benefits for our disabled veterans, and I renew my motion to pass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have on the list, a speaker. Is there a Bill Summers in the audience? Please, Mr. Summers, if you would make your way to one of the locations down at the front. We are out of session. Mr. Summers, you are recognized for 3 minutes and we'll control the microphone.
I'm a board member of the organization Tennessee Veterans. We represent veterans on legislative efforts throughout the state. Chairman Crawford nailed it pretty well for us. We're working on behalf of approximately the 45,000 veterans and or their spouses who benefit from this program. Just to make sure it's clear, this is not a benefits program for these people. This came in 1973 to show the respect and gratitude of the state of Tennessee for those veterans who have sacrificed and incurred injuries, or be they mental or physical, from their military duties. They can apply for this. The main distinction is in this, as Chairman Crawford mentioned, is the limit is $175,000. We're not asking for any more money. But the way the state interprets the calculations, they use a market value on this. And what happens is the 1 year that the county does its tax evaluations on the property, they consider the state, the market value, and the local value to be 1-to-1 in correlation with each other. But starting after that, as market values go up, the state deducts from the amount that that veteran would get on the reimbursement. And so you're looking as Representative Burkhart can attest to in Montgomery County as an example, in the years between the tax assessments, property values went up 65%, 66%. The veterans affected in that county by that lost equally that amount they got for what they got in 2019. So what we're looking at is trying to get rid of that equalization factor that's being used. The thing we're asking for, all 50 states do to various degrees and various amounts. This applies only to the 100% permanent and total VA qualified disabled veterans. So on their behalf, we would ask for your support on this. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Summers.
Thank you, sir.
Are there questions of the witness? Seeing none, we are back in session. Again, thank you, Mr. Summers. Questions of the presenter, McCalman, Representative McCalman first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Previous question has been called. Is there any objection to the call of the question? Seeing no objection, we're voting on the board. All in favor say, all in favor vote yes, all opposed vote no. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has everyone voted? Does anyone member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 0 nays.
The ayes have it. The HB, what number am I? 436 moves on to finance. Item 52 is the next item, House Bill 842. We have a proper motion and second. Or is there an amendment? Chairman Crawford?
Yes, 7029.
I hear proper motion and second on the amendment. Do you wish it placed on the bill?
No, I'd like to tell what the amendment does.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please explain the amendment.
The only thing this amendment does is it deletes the preamble.
Having the explanation of the amendment, all in favor of the amendment being added, say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is amended with 7029. Are there other amendments?
Just a second. Mr. Chairman, I've been informed that we need to adopt another amendment, 4869.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the amendment 4869, I have proper motion and second. Any opposition to voting on the amendment? Seeing none, we're voting on amendment 4869 being added to House Bill 842. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Your bill is now amended. Chairman Crawford, explain your bill.
Okay, thank you very much. With the two amendments, this bill makes a simple change to how the TWRA can use their Wetlands Acquisition Fund, commonly known as the WAF. Currently, the fund can be used to purchase and maintain properties under the agency's jurisdiction. These properties are typically adjacent to existing public wildlife management areas and are brought to the agency for consideration by willing sellers. Purchase of these properties increase public access to sportsmen and women. This bill will extend the use of those funds to allow the agency to spend down the balance and bring on more staff and law enforcement positions statewide.
Are there questions of the presenter, Chairman Rudd?
My question, I could be wrong here. I'm not sure what we did, but we adapted, my understanding is we adapted the second amendment, 7029 first, which eliminated the preamble.
Yes.
And then we voted and adapted 4869, which still had the preamble, I believe. Do we need to reconsider, or I'm not sure how we did that.
I can leave that quick.
I just wanted to make sure.
Legal.
We will go out of session and address the question to legal. We're out of session.
Thank you, Matt Monday from Legal. We're in a proper posture with these two amendments. The first deleted the preamble, which is before the enacting clause. The second amendment deletes all the language after the enacting clause, so the bill will be in proper form.
Okay, I just want to didn't get in trouble.
Thank you, Chairman Rudd. Thank you, legal. We're back in session. Are there other questions? Representative Powell.
So question for the sponsor, will this, is your belief under this bill, we're going to allow for more wetlands that become available? I understand some of the things we're doing with law enforcement, sounded like, and other things with TWRA, but will this, I guess, overall allow for more greater access to acquiring wetlands?
Chairman Crawford.
This will allow them to use those funds as they see fit, as far as with more officers or TWRA agents to protect these wetlands.
Representative Powell, follow up.
Yeah, just one other follow-up question about merging those two amendments. So the more money goes directly to the county, is that right, where those wetlands are in?
Chairman Crawford.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So
This is basically a funding from the governor that goes into his budget. And this year, we did not receive the amount that we received last year. So we're hoping that will change for next year. And what this does is allow us to use those funds to get to next year.
All right, thank you.
Other questions of the sponsor? Is there objection to the bill? Voting on the bill? Seeing no objection, we're voting on House Bill 842. Madam Clerk, please open the board. All in favor, vote yes. Opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 present not voting.
House Bill 842 moves on to finance.
All right, members, we got one more bill we got to take up. It's item 56. This is House Bill 318 by Chairman Rudd. We've got a
No.
proper motion.
No.
Okay. House Bill 1430 by Representative Chairman Powers. We do not have any amendments on this. We've got a proper motion and second. Chairman Powers, you're recognized.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to make sure, we're going to have another calendar. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to roll this, if you don't care, first available space on first available calendar.
Without objection, we'll roll this to the first available space on the next available calendar.
I'm going to check. Bill, just, yeah, get everything. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I will recognize you.
Be sure we got everything.
Okay, guys, just so you kind of know where we're at, I think there's a couple other bills that's hanging out there, naming and designating or private acts or something. So we'll probably have to open back up to take those up. But it looks like we've got our calendar completed at this time. Before we close, if there is any other bills that comes along, then we will take those up. Does anybody have any announcements or personal orders? Seeing none, I recognize Vice Chairman Wright.
I move we adjourn.
Without objection, we are adjourned.